Friday Heaters, the podcast. On this week's episode, we are joined by Pablo José Ramírez. Pablo is a curator at the Hammer Museum here in Los Angeles, California. He's just coming off the tail end of his debut exhibition at the museum. It's titled Several Eternities in a Day. It was an amazing show. We're going to talk shop, hear about what it takes to put on a big, huge museum show, what is curating, how that works for those of us non-art people. Pablo, thank you for joining us on the pod.
Very good to be here, Ben.
As you're just coming off of your show at the Hammer Museum, it's your first solo curatorial debut at the Hammer. I feel like it's been very well received and a big deal for you and for like the Hammer and the LA community. How are you feeling about it at this point in time after mostly the full run of the show?
I feel great. It's been a journey. And after opening a show, you have a bit of a hangover.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've been working on a project for 3 years, sometimes more, because, actually you start working on a show, especially of this scale, way before. So once you open the show, then you go back to office, next week, and then you're like, okay, so what should I do now? What's next? So kind of time slows down a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a moment of grief because, the show is open, is there, and that's great, but it's not yours anymore.
Yeah.
It kind of belongs to everyone, right? Then someone was saying that a friend, she was saying that maybe opening a show is like, she was like, it's like having a child, but it's not a baby, it's a teenager already because, it's out there. So you cannot control it.
Yeah.
But then you remember that you have to do these little things like take care of, little things. Should we put this chair here? Is people complaining about something? So these last 4 months and a half have been kind of like taking care of the show. I've been thinking a lot about also the conceptual premises and what things I could have done differently. There are not many, but there are in a parallel dimension, there are like, I don't know, 5 different iterations of this show. So you have an idea and then this is the show we did. But with that same idea, you could have done like 10 different shows.
Yeah.
So it's nice because, it's part of the process of learning as well. So that's where we are. We closed the exhibition in 3 weeks already.
Okay.
So,
yeah. I feel like the nature of the show too is very material based. You talk about it in terms of there's permanent objects, but also like more temporary objects that are, I'll say, biodegradable or, are less permanent. So I would imagine, does that take management as well during the show? You're tweaking or kind of monitoring to make sure things are holding up or moving around appropriately?
Yeah, that's part of it. I wanted with this exhibition, it was not the main aim, but I knew it was going to be a difficult show for the museum and for the team. In a museum, you have so many departments, and at the Hammer, more than 100 people is working there full time, right?
Yeah. Wow.
And then when you're about to open the show, you see how the different components of that machine interact with each other, right? You have registrars, you have the security. So that's something that kept happening during the show, right? Like, like the sand, for instance, in Raven check on installation would eventually kind of disperse too much. The seats will get very dirty because of the sand. And because the sound, the vibration of the sound was making sand, I guess, kind of like just move around.
Sure.
So all of these little details on how messy an exhibition can get as well, right? I mean, that was the whole point with the exhibition. Carmen Argote's painting had been changing slowly, very differently, because when we just opened the exhibition, the paintings were dripping avocado oil.
Okay.
So you could still see the oil on the floor.
Yeah. This is an artist, my understanding, she basically took avocado oil and oil, or actually the actual avocados themselves?
Actually avocado themselves. Yeah.
And made these huge like figurative pieces.
Yeah. Which is it's a beautiful piece, and I think it's one of the highlights of the exhibition. So that you have these big avocado paintings. The avocado is slowly oxidizing the paper.
Yeah.
So if you leave those paintings for, let's say, a year or more, eventually the avocado will destroy the paper.
Yeah.
So you can think also about those paintings in terms of the labor the artist put into it, and then just making peace with the fact that the painting will be destroyed after the show. It will be composted.
Yeah.
That's it's a better way to say it, because I was at some point, it will be destroyed, and I was like, it sounds so strange to say that an art piece is gonna be destroyed. It's gonna transform.
Yeah.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah, and now if you see the paintings, they look a little drier. They haven't changed that much visually, but all of those things during the course of the exhibition have been, moving, slowly, and sometimes in a very obvious manner, and sometimes you cannot just see it, right? Like the flowers from Patricia Dominguez that have been just dry, and the roses, the petals have been just slowly falling to the floor.
Yeah. As you're talking, it's occurring to me as well, a lot of the Friday Heaters audience is newer to art, and a lot of what we do is trying to bring the art world or artists and art to a larger audience. And so I guess many people, and myself included, like, don't necessarily know the technicality of like what a curator does. So how would you summarize what you do, or I guess what you did for this Hammer show as well?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I would say that there are many types of curators, and there are, of course, many different interests. A curator, simply put, is someone that organizes an exhibition, among other things, but that's one of the main tasks. So organizing an exhibition in the sense that you select the artists, you select the works, and you think of an argument to do a show, right? Like, you can think of like 1,000 ideas of a show, but the real question is, why do LA, or why do we need this kind of exhibition now? So also you think of the kind of importance and how timely a theme or a topic can be. And based on that, you build an exhibition, right? And this exhibition can be group exhibitions or can be monographic retrospectives, as the one I'm doing with Joy Terrell next year at the Hammer as well. So it really varies. There are also different personalities of curators, right?
Sure.
There are ones that are probably, more into like nerdy stuff. Like, I mean, this is...
Do you fall in that category, or
I'm testing a theory. I think, and this is the first time I'm sharing this openly. So my theory is, so there are 3 archetypes, or let's say 3 different types. That is not one single person. It's like characteristics kind of like centralized into 3 archetypes. One, I think, is that relates to high school as well. One is the nerds.
Okay.
The other is the populars.
Okay.
And the last one is the metalheads.
Okay. Interesting 3 choices.
Yes. So I'm sure people would think of different ones as well. But so then, like, curators, I think, that move in between. It's not that you are only a nerd or only a popular. You, across your career, you move between these 3 archetypes. So, the nerds are interested in more like writing, discourse, theory. They tend to be very worried about proper, good quality writing, wall text and the labels. The populars are very good politicians. They are all the time hanging, making connections, talking to this. So, it's also, for some works, very well, right? And the metalheads are...
this is the curious one to me.
They're very cool. They do good shows, but also ultimately you kind of feel that they don't give a fuck. You kind of feel that they can be like, you know what? I'm gonna leave this thing. I'm gonna just become a cook or whatever. So there is this kind of punk kind of attitude.
Like rebel.
Like a rebel, exactly.
I like metalheads as a better
archetype. So I think curators move between different roles. And I'm saying this also because sometimes we do have to do a lot of admin, right, as well. Like
Sure.
behind the shows, there is a lot of very boring work, right? Admin, paperwork, and there are teams of people, right?
Yeah.
A curator is always, the shows are the result of many, many people working together.
Yeah. And I would imagine, I mean, I'm just looking at you today and I know you fairly well, but I feel like, to your point, I see you as possessing all three of those archetypes at some point.
Yeah, I think I move between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Code switch.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel closer to a nerd side.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh no, I had to.
It feels like you guys are like, as curators, it's like you're putting together a puzzle, but the puzzle pieces are not like little cardboard pieces. They're like pieces of art that you're assembling to hopefully fit together into some unified statement. Or is that inherently true, or are there some shows where it's more about the flow of everything, like a journey of mixed experiences?
That's a very good question. I think it can be both things. There are curators that are more interested in the poetics of an exhibition. And when I say poetics, I mean like it's not only about the curator is telling you to see or how you should see art, right? It's about your own experience, and your experience is always subjective to an extent. Sometimes, I mean, like music is a good example, right? Like you listen to music in a subjective way. You know, it's not because you like it because the lyrics are so good. It's, you know, there is something
There's
about the
feeling.
song that would connect. So I believe these are the kind of these are the kind of shows that I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to do shows that connect to people and that speak to you in a more, let's say, poetic way. However, there are also curators and shows that are looking more into, let's say, discourse or history or very specific themes, if you want. And you know, I think it's tricky because when you think of a theme as a curator, you are at risk of illustrating ideas with art. You know, let's say you want to talk about climate change, just to put something, and then you select a group of artists and art that you think speak to climate change, but maybe these artists, half of them were really not thinking about that at all, right? So then when you do that, you're always kind of forcing the works to fit into specific categories or ideas, and ultimately that's detrimental to your own experience of art. So the question for curators is how we, instead of building these boxes, we facilitate a kind of windows that allow people to see things and to experience things in a much more nuanced and open manner.
Open, right? I was gonna say open-handed.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to me as you're talking. You and I have not talked a ton about this, but my background is in the music industry and like being a musician and songwriting. And I think similarly of how like sometimes I might go to write a song with a very clear subject and intent in mind. Like, oh, I just had this hard breakup and I need to write and express these emotions into like some poetic love song. But then there's other times where you're just coming into the studio and you just start riffing ideas. And sometimes those end up being just as powerful of songs as something that has like a real focused message to it.
Yeah.
And I hadn't thought about that with curating. It feels like maybe similar to what you're saying.
Yeah, but that's a good example. Like, I don't know why. I think it's probably how we've been socialized in relation to music and in relation to art. But it would be interesting to think. Imagine that people can actually approach an exhibition as they would approach like a new album. Right? You just put it there, you listen to it, and you really don't overthink it. You just listen, you like it or not, or some parts you like, and so on. But with exhibitions, maybe because it's a less, kind of socialized medium, like music is everywhere, it's just harder, and sometimes I think you expect to understand completely well the ideas behind a show or the ideas behind an object.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really how the brain works, right? And
Yeah.
not how sensitivity works.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that if you understand the ideas, then you suddenly are going to be illuminated about that work.
Yeah.
So, there is still something that we need to do when it comes to that for curators, right?
Yeah. It's so interesting. That's just like as a macro concept, I think that is an additional challenge that you have as a curator, composing this show of all these different ingredients and different artists. It's also thinking about like so I went back to your show yesterday to kind of brush up on everything before we had our interview today. And what I love with the show is it slows, it feels rooted, it feels natural, it slows me down, maybe because of the materiality that you talk about in some of the text and just the material of the work. Again, like I mentioned, it's for those that haven't seen it. It was like traditional wall pieces like you might see in a normal museum, but then there's dirt and rock and brick and ceramic and clay and so I have that experience, and there's something where it's clear enough to me as still, as much as like I'm an art guy, I still feel like a rookie and I'm just making it up as I go. But there's still something in me in that show that like leads me to approach it that way. But then there's also this challenge of, if I read everything, or if I knew all these artists, or if I had studied, then I would be a better viewer of all of this experience. But clearly, as you just said, it's like that's actually not realistic for 99.9%, I would assume, of the people that are not you. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's, I don't know, I'm smiling at that now of like, the freedom that brings for those out there that are going to museum shows. You don't have to carry that responsibility. Like, am I doing this right? Is like, should I know more? And but then also for you, I think it's like empowering to hear you, the visionary behind it, in some ways take that pressure off of the audience.
Yeah.
Or be aware of that.
Yeah.
Like, you're not pissed at me because I didn't know everything that you knew when I walked through that exhibition.
Yeah. I moved to LA almost 4 years ago, right? And as you know, we moved from Berlin, and so very different context.
Yeah.
And the thing is that for me, something that is very important in LA is and that many curators are doing, is try to show more international art. And things that probably audiences are not used to see here. Because that's the whole point, right? That kind of you discover worlds as you move, right, through a show. But that's also challenging for the viewer because you feel comfortable with what you know. So when you are seeing something new, you need to process. So, but it's, and with this show, some people that are close to the hammer, collectors, for instance, would come to me after the opening and they were like, Pablo, I love this artist. I never, first time I see him.
Sure.
But also, funnily, sometimes it would be artists that I have shown before, but not in real life. Okay. But like in meetings or like something for acquisition or something. So that tells you how powerful the exhibition medium still is.
Yeah.
Like, it's not enough if I bring you a catalog and I talk to you about these Brazilian artists. It really does a thing when you see the object in a real exhibition space and in the context of an exhibition.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I think is still an important thing to do, and acknowledge that for audiences, like, it's okay if you don't connect to the works, and it's okay if maybe you want to go back, and maybe the second or third time you will, right? So that is really no pressure.
Yeah. I guess when you say international, I just caught that, and I think I have seen you as very fastly becoming a leader of that effort. And I think specifically in the show, the way it's presented, it's like, looking at South America, Central America, and North America, but predominantly like brown people who have not been in the institutional setting as much before. Do you think about it consciously that way, or is it this is just how you operate. This is what you're about. This is the art that you've kind of built your life around studying.
It's how my brain and my body works, like intuitively. Like I really don't start these shows and these ideas by thinking, okay, I want to bring more brown folks to the museum. I mean, that's great as a principle, but it's not a principle when I'm thinking about an exhibition. The reason why not always, but most of my shows have one way or another being related to, like diasporic communities, indigenous artists, and so on, is because the art that I'm most fascinated with is art being produced by artists in the global south.
Yeah.
And I just think that, there is so much art in the world, and it's good to have a sort of kind of guiding light, and that changes over time.
Yeah.
But that's the art that I find, not the only, but it's the art that I find most fascinating at the moment. And again, it gets very interesting because that also means looking at California. That also means to look at New Mexico, right? So it is not really thinking about, when I say global south, I'm not thinking only on like, Southeast Asia or Latin America. I'm thinking about the US and about Canada or Europe.
Yeah.
So it starts as more of an embodied kind of principle because it's the art I'm looking at.
Hearing you say that, it's so inspiring because it feels kind of like a growth beyond some of the limitations of identity I feel like the art world has wrestled with, or culturally, like so much of the world has wrestled with since COVID, since 2020. And it feels at times, I'm encouraged that it's just we're naturally being curious and interested, and it's all becoming, maybe I'm naive, but wanting it to become more just all on the same playing field.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would like to get to a place where, or maybe in part we are already there, where you see art from a similar kind of perspective. So like, I'm looking at, let's say, contemporary art, right? And that can be, a white Norwegian artist, or it can be a Brazilian indigenous artist.
Yeah.
Or, so, and that's not because you want to erase the historical injustices, but it's because you are acknowledging that this artist, any artist, is as good as any other.
Yeah.
Right? And the art deserves to be seen under those same terms. And that's why your question is so good, because I really argue for, and in this exhibition as well, like I didn't do an exhibition about indigenous artists, and it is not an exhibition about identity. It's an exhibition about art and about something that I think is happening to art, which is the relationship with living materials. And that's changing the core of contemporary art anywhere. You go to the Venice Biennial, you go to a show in LA, and there are artists working with these kind of materials, right? Organic materials, mineral materials. What is interesting is that comes from, most of the times, from histories related to brown communities, indigenous communities, and that's when you start making the connections, right? So you don't start by kind of like racializing an artist and saying, oh, this artist does this because he's indigenous. You start by looking at the object and seeing what's happening with the art object, right? With art itself. So yeah, I think it's a complicated debate, because sometimes also people wants to see in the shows what they want to see. So with Several Eternities, at some point there will be people that come and it's like, oh yeah, so I love the show about indigenous art, and I'm like, actually, if you see the artist list, half of the artists are indigenous, only half. So why is that you see this show and you think that it's about indigenous art? It's like you're letting your own kind of prejudices kind of filter into your own viewing, right? So it's still challenging, right? And you're facing a lot of prejudices and so on.
Inevitably, walking through the show yesterday, I felt like the smartest way to perceive it was just from the physical standpoint, and getting focused on the material, and like, what is my body feeling? how it slows me down, the imagery that I'm looking at. I actually don't know like the history of where it's all coming from. So it could be one thing, it could be other. So rather than me trying to like assign it to a type of person, it led me to just be like, you know what? I'm just going to cruise and flow through it. I like the idea of that happening more for people. I'll just be like, I don't know who did this, but I like it and I'm flowing through it.
Yeah, it's okay. Also, if you don't want to read any labels, it's also fine. For people that want to read labels, they are there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you noticed, but the wall text is very short.
Yeah.
It's probably the shortest wall text I've written. So my idea was that you could, if you want, you just read the wall text and then you see the show. Don't read any labels.
Yeah.
Now, if you are, I don't know, you are a researcher, or you're really into understanding each piece or a specific piece, then you will go to the labels. But you have these kind of options as well, right? To navigate the show. Yeah.
I was going to ask you one, but I don't know if it's relevant anymore, but I remember prepping this question. One of the things that you did have on the text, you said kinship through, it's kind of on this subject we've been discussing. You said kinship through a shared aesthetic language rather than fostering an ethnographic gaze or a desire for cultural authenticity. And I feel like that's speaking to a little bit of what we've just been talking about. How would you describe it for like an average person who's learning about art?
I would start with cultural authenticity. As I said before, everyone, including myself, we move through the world and, we all have our own ideas of like, in this case, how indigenous art would look like or what kind of art an LA artist is doing, right? And those ideas are reinforced by what we see. So let's think about a regular art visitor, like an art connoisseur that likes to go on weekends to see shows, right? When you think about, for instance, artists from LA from a certain generation, you already expect to see something. And then you start assigning these ideas to a specific kind of ethnic or identitarian categories. So the idea with this line was also to, especially when it comes to brown folks, there is already a lot of presence in museums and biennales of brown and indigenous artists for good. If you see the major biennales of the last decade. But that is a very new phenomenon. Like if, the Venice Biennale 25 years ago was something very different than what you see now. So the problem is that I believe curators and museums, we still don't have the vocabulary to talk about artists and cultures that we don't understand completely. Because, we know what we know, right?
Sure.
So the question for me on that line was how a curator like myself, like let's say, would present a piece of art from a Mapuche artist from Chile. I don't speak the language. I'm in Chile, but it's still. And the paradox is that curators were supposed to present art from everywhere. That's contemporary art. You kind of become global. So curators usually end up reproducing a language that is very close to the kind of anthropological language of like, these artists, so in their culture they believe this, and then you start describing like as you were there, and you're also not an anthropologist. So my I guess my desire there was like acknowledging that as a curator you just don't know. And then you respect that space of untranslatability. Okay, this is a difficult word. Translation, untranslation.
Untranslatability.
There you go. Yeah. So you acknowledge that space.
Ooh, that's good.
And I guess ideally you would be empowered by that space. Like kind of the sort of acknowledgement of the space that you just don't know. And when you work with artists from different contexts, that's going to happen all the time. So how do you write about these things, and how do you create didactics like labels and wall text? So that was my intention with that line, basically.
I mean, I to hear you say that, it's like, whoa, you got your work cut out for you. That is no easy task to try and be the the nuance and keeping, being the appropriate translator for all of these different ingredients to your puzzle that's coming into the show.
Yeah, because also people, and understandably so, people want to have information. If you look at an object, you want to know where is it from, what's the artist,
Yeah.
So it's very hard to reconcile the fact that in an exhibition you need to provide information while at the same time you want to respect the space of the artist
Yeah.
and not pretend, that you are like suddenly this, no, have all of this vast knowledge about anywhere in the world,
Yeah.
right? And if you check contemporary curators, I think many struggle with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You acknowledge the power of art to kind of embody ideas and things that you cannot put into words.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why we keep working with art and not something else, right? You acknowledge that in the rocks with Edgar Calel there is something there that you just cannot translate into spoken language. So you can provide some information, you can say something about that because it's our job, but at the same time you leave the piece to speak for itself.
I think what's interesting about the show too, and we try and talk about it on the podcast sometimes, whether that's delving into like health and wellness or spirituality and other subjects around art, or that doesn't get covered in art as much, that is very much a part of our artists or communities and patrons' lives. So it seemed to me very much like in the show, there is this through line of spirituality as well that is brought in. And I guess how do you think about that as a curator? Are you trying to make it spiritual? Is spirituality something that's important to you that you're trying to pull into an art show? Or is it just the nature of the art itself that includes that?
That's a very timely question because it's something I've been thinking over the last 2-3 days. Because a couple of people asked me, and also some publications and reviews. So I've been reflecting on the idea of spirituality, and it's funny because when I thought about the show, like 2 years ago, you need to come up with a title, but it's always like a working title, right? And then we got a Warhol Foundation grant.
Yeah, that's big.
Like 1.5 years before the show opened. So that project was submitted under the name that Several Eternities in a Day, and the subtitle was back then something along the lines of Brownness and the Spiritual Turn in Contemporary Art.
The spiritual turn.
I knew it was not the right subtitle, but I needed something, right? And then halfway through, like a year before, when we were printing the catalog, I needed really like a final title and subtitle.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, "Oh man, this is so long," and I knew it was long. The title is already long, and and I was like, "Yeah, whatever, it's fine. Let's just do it. Let's just do it long."
Rebel.
Yeah, exactly. Metalhead. Yeah. And
I do what I want.
Exactly. But the thing is that I realized that I was not doing a show about spirituality. Period. Like there is a lot of a lot to discuss around spirituality in the show, of course. Also, you could argue that in general, art is an spiritual experience in itself.
Absolutely.
But the show, because of that, especially because spirituality then it gets so broad, also because spirituality tends to be related to religiosity.
Yep.
Also, not my aim. I'm not doing a show about religion at all. So I move the word spirituality from the show completely, like from the title and subtitle.
Yeah.
It's also not in the wall text. It's somewhere maybe section text. Or maybe it is. I'll double check.
No, it might be. I think it might be in some of the individual pieces.
Yeah. I'm sure.
For sure.
Yeah, and the section text of the show. Because, it's definitely a thing, but it's not a show about that. It is a show about materials.
Yeah.
And the thing is that the other reason about my, I guess, kind of issue with spirituality as a concept is that especially in Western contexts like the US and Europe, it's very hard to detach spiritual. You have in the especially Judeo-Christian traditions, you have the idea of the spirit and the body, right? So those are two different things. So spirituality is usually attached to kind of like the realm of the abstract. It's not things that you can touch. It's experience. It's abstract, right? And when you look at these artists, they are doing exactly the opposite. They are not thinking abstractly. They are thinking about materiality and objects and art. And even when those objects relate to metaphysical ideas, like the Bocaro, I don't know, in Carmen's and the relationship to Mesoamerican cultures, or Edgar Calel and the rocks and the blood.
Yeah, the rocks and the blood.
There is something, of course, there is something ritual about the objects, but it's not a problem kind of like body spirit. It's about matter, right? And from matter you can learn, and matter is at the center. And in the end, so I did that kind of purposefully, but I can see why some people would, especially writers that are kind of like seeing the show, are kind of like expecting to see something. And then that is this thing with the spirituality that is very curious. It's interesting.
Yeah, maybe it is with the materiality, like it's a natural human thing for us to like assign meaning or like channel our own deeper meaning of from an object, or especially with all of the natural materials too. No, exactly. It's I mean, I did, Rose B. Simpson, remembering the show at the end, the ceramics. Yes.
So she's Ari is living in Santa Clara Pueblo, and we arranged the small vessels in this wall that is all black, and we build these kind of different levels, so they are arranged in a way that for me are kind of evocative of kind of Catholic traditions and saints. So those things are kind of purposefully there in that way, because there is something kind of energetic about them, and you can really feel them, right? So there is also a lot of like performativity in those subjects, right? Sometimes I at least feel that they are alive, and I don't really need to talk about spirituality. I need to live it. And the more you write or talk about it, the less spiritual it gets, right?
Sure.
So like one day before the opening, I was working until late there, but I stay inside the galleries, so I'm with my laptop, and then the crew was installing Edgar Calel's, like the rocks. So that was a lot of labor, right? Like
these are big rocks for people who are never going to get a chance to see it. These are like big boulders, probably. I'm guessing
more than 2,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then you have the crew, which also kudos to the team, really incredible. Like the physical labor behind the show was incredible. So I'm in a separate gallery, and then it's the lights are automatic. So after like half an hour, I was just writing, and then the lights turned down. And then there I was alone in the show with all of the objects inside. And there I had a spiritual experience. But it's not, it's your own. That's the thing. And because there was a moment of like solitude, and then I was like, wow, like also very dim light, and then these objects there. And that was nice, but I would not write about that.
Okay.
You don't write about the divine or the metaphysical. You just experience
it. Ooh, that's good. That's real good. Yeah, I like that. Man, we could talk about spirituality, and I guess I've always wondered this, how you're from Guatemala. Like, your story is, I feel like I was doing some research too. You've been all over the world. You've been a speaker at all these different locations and institutions, worked at all these different big institutions. Where did it come from? You grew up in Guatemala. Like, when did like the launch into this path start for you?
Man, that's a long story. How much time we have? No, I'm glad you asked, because it's I don't usually think about these things, but when when I have to, it's nice to also remember how ideas kind of originated, if you
Yeah.
want, right? Or how you practice, like where do you come from, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I grew up in Guatemala in a small town called Quetzaltenango, and so that was in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And Guatemala had like this long civil war. It was the longest in Latin America, one of the longest. It was 36 years of civil war.
Mm.
So it was terrible under a military dictatorship. And as it happened with many Latin American countries, um, indigenous population were among the communities that suffered the most,
Mm-hmm.
right? And contrary to what you would see in the US or Europe, in Latin America, the societies are very, very segregated,
Mm.
still a very kind of colonial, racist
It's a
sort
race.
of
Okay.
structure. And so I grew up in the 80s, and my parents were both involved in political activism, both university professors.
Mm.
My dad was an economist, and my mom is a social worker. Um, Small town, no museums, like really, yeah. I mean, there are a couple of very funny things, but not museums, not art, no commercial galleries at all.
Yeah.
But so my background is in political philosophy. It was a major in political science and then a minor in philosophy. And I did that because I was kind of involved already in social organizations
Mm.
and influenced by all that I've seen. But the thing is that at some point when I was younger, my mother had to go to exile and
Mm.
she went to Honduras.
Okay.
So I grew
Because
up with
of but
because the repression. So the university professors were being persecuted and
whoa.
kidnapped and killed in many instances because the public university was seen as this kind of intellectual kind of space of the left.
Hmm.
So professors, especially from humanities, would be targeted.
Wow.
Uh, so there is this kind of crazy stories that where my mom had this whole plan for me. Like I was a little kid, I was 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So she knew that if something happened, I would go to my grandmother in a different town, smaller. So one day she had to flee because 2 of their friends were already kidnapped by the dictatorship. So my mom went to Honduras, and I went to my grandmother when I was 4.
Okay.
And that was a small town called Santa Cruz del Quiché. So Santa Cruz del Quiché is a town of a majority in Mayan indigenous population, Quiché. And so I grew up for the next 4 years surrounded by, my grandmother, but also the language and the culture. And in Guatemala, about 60% of the population is of Mayan descent.
Okay.
So it's a small country, very multicultural.
Yeah.
There are, I don't have the number exactly, but between 21 and 23 different languages in a
Whoa.
country of 50 million population.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's a really incredible place. So those were my formative years.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, time passed. My mom came back, went back to my hometown. And then when doing my undergrad, I met this artist in Guatemala called Regina Jose Galindo. So Regina is a very, very known performance artist. Mostly of this 90s generation, connected to Santiago Sierra, for instance, from Mexico, and like Ana Mendieta, in a way, is a big inspiration for Regina. And Regina was doing back then in the 90s these very visceral performances. Probably one of the first performance artists in Guatemala. So her most iconic piece is her walking from the Palace of Justice in Guatemala City to the Congress. That was 2001, I believe, when the former dictator was being elected for Congress. So the piece was her walking with like a bucket of blood, and she would, make her feet wet and then walk. So you would see the traces of the blood from the National Palace to the Congress.
Hmm.
And the whole poetics behind like the blood being erased, and obviously the government was trying to clean the blood and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw her work and I was like, wow, you can actually do art, but you are doing politics. So for me, it was a huge discovery. And I knew anything about performance art at all. I was, 18, 19 already. So I got into her work, and then, eventually in Guatemala, I started working with her and other artists, and my community of artists and friends were mostly artists outside the city. So were artists from rural indigenous communities.
Mm-hmm.
Edgar Khalil is one of them here in the show.
Okay.
So in a way, this show also is a very kind of personal take on an international contemporary movement.
Mm-hmm.
I'm opening the show with Edgar.
Yeah.
We know each other for a long time.
So cool.
Yeah. And Carlos Merida, the first painting that you saw at the very beginning, like a small oil painting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He is was a modernist master, and from my hometown, from Shela. I mean, Merida is very well known in Latin America. Some say one of the founders of Latin American modernism. So, in a way that I guess speaks to the work I do now. Eventually, I left Guatemala. I moved to London, stay in Europe, Amsterdam, Berlin.
Yeah.
But, that stays with you, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's your formative years.
Yeah. It's just, I feel like it's a one of one story to come from Guatemala and to end up at the Tate and now at the Hammer. Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I think
it's
to put it
into
perspective, yeah. You end up curating. You're not yet living in LA, but you get picked to curate Made in LA, like our kind of big champion exhibition that the Hammer puts on every 2 years, and you worked with Diana Nowie for that. To me, that was like one of the greatest Made in LAs ever, and mainly I think too because of my connection to you two. I just think of it as the best. How do you feel about that experience and Made in LA then to where it is today?
Made in LA is I have it so close to my heart. It was the first show I did in Los Angeles, and it taught me so much. And as you know, like with Diana, we became very, very good friends. Like, we still, if we don't call each other, like in 1 week, I kind of start missing her because you get used to the person, right? Like working together kind of really creates a strong bond.
Yeah.
And the biennial also taught me the kind of the richness and vibrancy of the city. I really had no idea. I knew about LA because of what everyone knows about LA. I knew the big artists, I knew the museums, but I didn't know like how much the kind of fabric of the artistic community sort of like mesh into different aspects of the city. And how is that, you go one level deeper and then you'll find a whole network of people doing different things and community gatherings. And you go to the Lake River and there is like an art collective doing something there and a festival next weekend. It's really, I honestly don't think there is a city like this in the world. Like, I mean, it's just something that makes LA so unique is how decentralized it is.
Yeah.
And that's something we learned because of Made in LA. Because we were, as you know, driving all the time around the city, doing studio visits. And that was a moment of realization of like, whoa, this is important. And it's important for the city. And it's a biennial also that it's important for the city. I haven't seen another biennial like that. You have incredible biennials and very international. Made in LA can be international, but it's not the main aim of the exhibition. It is a biennial that really matters for the city, and you have the audience here, right? You don't do an opening and you have people from all over the world traveling to the opening. You have the LA community, and that's really special.
Yeah, it feels like and again, I'm never the expert in the art world, but it feels like when I think of, the Whitney Biennial on the other side of the country, it's a New York biennial, but it draws more, I think, from like the whole country. Whereas I feel like Made in LA, I think, is like more focused exclusively on LA. Maybe there's exceptions to that, but at this point, do you feel like LA is home, or do you still feel new? And because how many couple years it's been?
Almost 4.
Almost 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is home.
Yeah.
LA is home. It's, I've been moving too much. And there is something of you that changes when you move that much. Like you get used to the thrill of discovering new places all the time.
Yeah.
And that's tricky. It's very fun, but it's tricky because you are always thinking about the next move, right?
Yeah, yeah.
LA is the first place that I feel like home. Like after living in 3 different cities in the last years. And there are many reasons for that, but in part I think it's because, LA can be tough if you are a newbie, but also it's a very generous place. Like,
yeah, I agree.
People tend to be generous. The job at the museum also makes a difference in the sense that you have a community of friends and people and artists around. So, and the connection to Latin America is also, I think, to an extent important. It's not like, when I moved to LA, people will be like, oh, so you're going often to Guatemala to see your family now. And I'm like, not really. Like, from London, I will fly to Guatemala and it was 7 hours.
Yeah.
Direct flight. From LA is 6.5.
Yeah, it's like, I was going to say.
Yeah, it's not a big difference.
Yeah.
But of course, like the symbolic kind of cultural connection is different.
Yeah, yeah.
So LA feels like home. Yeah, it's a good place to be.
That's great.
Yeah.
How do you feel about, like, obviously we're in this moment right now in the art industry or in the art world. We'll just use the broad term art world. There are many art worlds, but for our art world today is I think questioning itself a little bit. The market, the business side of the art world has slowed a little bit. Do you feel like that's an appropriate correction, or are you concerned about the moment that we're in right now, or do you feel hopeful and optimistic about?
I feel optimistic because I think that moments of a certain crisis, if you want, are always an opportunity to imagine radically different institutions, right? You need these moments. And I mean, I think, as you just said, we are in a challenging moment. I know galleries are having a tough time as well in the city. Museums in part are as well. There is a whole... Finances are just tough, and fundraising is tough for institutions. People in LA tend to be very generous, and there are great supporters of the arts. But, there is something about the models that we need to rethink. Just to give you an example, storage costs for museums, as you know, is getting so expensive. So, the question at some point is like, how much more you wanna acquire for the museum when your storage costs are increasing exponentially. So, these questions are questions about, like, sustainability, for instance. So all of these are they are changing already the way we think about museums, and probably the way we think about art market and galleries. I'm not part of the conversations with galleries, but I imagine they are also rethinking their own models, right? And you have some examples of collaborative practices within galleries and, different kind of models. But yeah, I think we will need just to come up with new ways.
Yeah. What do you think, like, the average person, like, does not appreciate or know about the nature of a museum, the work of a museum? Like, if there's something that you feel like is underrepresented, or people don't get how hard it is to do X, Y, or Z with a museum.
I'm so glad you're asking that.
Yeah. Because I feel like as much as they're the big dogs, and they're like, it's easy to, like, critique a museum and be like, oh, this isn't right, or we want more of this. But, like, It's tough business. It's
It
a tough
is
business.
tough.
So like, what do people not know that they need to know about?
I think it's good to remember that institutions are made of people. They are not abstract big buildings. They are people that work there, that earn a salary, that have families, that go to office, that try to solve problems every day. So as any place with humans involved, you will have like challenges, and there are most of the people, if not everyone that works in museums, are very passionate about the work they do. Like I can speak for the Hammer, and you see the people like working as registrars, install crew. These people is insane. They are incredible. Like they work nonstop, but they are also like nerds. Like they are like passionate about art.
Yeah.
So they believe in the mission, right, of bringing art to people. The
Mm-hmm.
museum, the Hammer is still free, right, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to remember that, and to remember that there are good intentions behind the exhibitions and things that museums try to put on. Sometimes, especially when you work with so many artists, the process can be intense, can be difficult. But it's important to remember that in the end, the people that is in these institutions are mediating all the time. Curators, we're mediating between artists and the institution, whatever the institution is, right?
Yeah.
Like we're mediating between the audiences and negotiating budgets, right? So I think that's something that people tend to not see, how much work there is in mediation. And like an artist telling you, I want to do this, but I need, I don't know, $30,000, and then you need to make a case with whoever is in charge of budget at the museum. So you are always risking things as you move through these projects, and that's part of the job. It's great.
Yeah.
But I think that's something that people tend to forget sometimes.
Yeah. I think the nature of the art world too, or museums, we have some significant patrons who fund a lot and write a lot of big checks for our institutions, and our institutions would not exist without people like that. And so it's easy to sort of lump in those big names with those big buildings and just say, surely you should just make it happen. Like, it's not that hard for you to just add more to the budget or whatever. And I think the data shows, right, that like statistically we give more than any other America gives more than any other country philanthropically, but our arts institutions are oftentimes the lowest cause given to. Not to say that you can, it's a losing battle to say who is more important, whether it's for what cause should get more money, but I'm often quick to bring that stat up when I'm in conversations with people of yes, there are big splashy names and big and fancy buildings, but to run them in perpetuity and to sustain budgets in perpetuity is a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, yeah. And older collectors that probably are not that engaged anymore. You need also new people joining. So it's a non-stop, constant work of relationships, right? And
that's part of, I think, with heaters too. It's like we're always like a work in progress of what exactly are we doing for the art world. But I do think that sure, the boomer era, the older generation came up in the art world under certain models that we see kind of at their peak example right now. But inherently, all of us have come up in this era with screens and digital being a huge part of community, of connection, and how do we activate and get people excited and interested in art. Yes, nothing beats the experience of walking through your show in person and getting to see it firsthand, but so much of our lives don't lead us to necessarily get the opportunity to experience everything firsthand. So I don't know, that's part of our heaters mission, or like how do you activate that next younger generation to be excited and see the value and importance of material to the spiritual, to the just human significance of creation and making physical visual art.
And how you bring more people to the museum as well, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. It's a big ask today. Again, I always bring it back to music, but like you think of the stimulating stuff and the stories that are told on screens and technology on our phones and screens, and it's a big ask to have someone to like get off their couch, go to a music venue, buy a ticket, sit through a band or two that they may or may not want to listen to in order to hear the final act of the night.
Yeah. And also, like, I mean, I didn't know, I don't have the numbers now in mind, but in LA, I mean, museums have like mostly a local audience, right? I'm sure Lagma has, for instance, more international or non-West Coast audience than the Hammer Mocha, but still, like, it's not like, you know, New York museums have an international audience, London museums. So I guess I'm not saying this is a good or bad thing. I'm just thinking that it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
That you have your own is the local audience, right? And some art person that travels to town. But
yeah, it's funny, right? I mean, we can riff on this all day long, but it's like that's part of the thing that I think so many of us have fallen in love with that are part of our community is that when I travel these days, there's like an additional purpose if you make time to, I might be in this town or this city and I'm going to go to see a show at a museum or to check out a local art gallery. You're contributing in participating as you stay curious, which feels like you get to feel like extra special is like, oh, you're doing something that's adding to the soup.
But do you feel that people in LA go to see how hungry you feel people is to see things? Because also, I don't know if it's the city, but I feel like people go to one thing, right? And then that's your weekend.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not like also it's not a city where you can see 5 things in a day, right? So there is this also kind of slow cadence with how you see things around the city, which probably is a good thing because you remain more focused.
Yeah.
You're not bummed, and you know what? You're not anxious.
Yeah.
You're not anxious about like, oh man, I'm in this opening, I have to go to these 3 more openings.
Yeah.
You are present where you are to an extent. And I think that's because how the city is configured.
Yeah.
You know, we're here and this is the place.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I agree. I think when I first moved to LA, I thought of that too. I moved here from Portland, Oregon, and it's just a big enough and just a small enough city where you can kind of wrap your head around everything. But to your point earlier, LA is so spread out and elaborate that fairly quickly you realize you have to just surrender, which is so freeing of like, oh, there's no way I'm going to see everything.
Yeah.
And even for us with Friday Heaters, it's like, I'd love to get to all the shows and people hit me up like, check this out, check that. And we do our best, but like we miss a ton of stuff.
Of course.
And then there's freedom in that. I think when you play in LA that there's, on any given night, there are so many interesting things taking place.
Yeah.
As I always want to touch on a little bit with our guests, the art world can get heady and can get arty, but like, how are you doing in life? Are you summer season? Are you hitting the gym, hitting the beach? How's your beach bod? You and I have talked about health and wellness. Are you getting all of your protein?
I am. Excellent. Yeah. Not really as disciplined as I should.
Okay.
But things are well. Summer is good. I was traveling for work and I was in Europe right for the heat wave. And that was very hard.
Yeah.
It's like very hot.
Yeah.
So going back to LA feels like, oh man, this is great. This is perfect now, right? So that's good. I am a mountain person.
A mountain person.
Yeah.
Is that Guatemala? Like, is that?
No, so Guatemala has beach and has mountain. So something nice is that you have this topography that is like, I grew up in this very high altitude town, and then I would drive to the beach and be in the beach in half an hour.
Yeah.
Or 45. And I don't remember the exact high, but it was very high, very cold all year long, because you are also in the tropical area, right? So if you are high, every year is cold. So I didn't see much seasons, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I realized I like the mountain, I like the forest.
Yeah.
I appreciate the beach, but I'm not like a beach person.
Okay.
You know, but it's fine in LA because you can just go to Big Bear or something.
Yeah,
I
totally.
guess.
Yeah. I think the mountains are like kind of, they sneak up on you here in LA. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or the desert. I mean,
Yeah.
how about the desert?
Yeah.
So, you know, things are good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we move now and we have a little bit of a backyard, which is for me and my wife is new. Like, you know, we are apartment people.
Yeah.
Also in Europe is kind of what you do.
Sure.
And now we're like, oh man, we have a backyard.
Yeah.
What? You know, so I'm using the, how you call it? The hose?
The hose?
The
Yeah.
hose. I'm hosting things all the time. I love it. I get up and I'm like, you know, what's there to host today?
Yeah, summertime. You got to use that hose.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Do you like it? I mean, there is some nice feeling about the hose.
Yeah, I don't have much of a yard here, but yeah, no, a hose. I mean,
well, you can come home and you can you can host things.
Yeah. Set up like a slip and slide in the backyard, maybe. In terms of your daily health regimen or weekly health regimen, have you been doing good about going to the gym, or
you know, so I
as an artist, because people don't associate artists with and art stuff with like health and wellness. So
no, but I
always like to highlight that
with Eloise as well. So I do think a lot about those things just because I want to find the right balance. I don't want to overdo it. But I like routine. That's the thing. And the older you get, the more you appreciate the routine.
Ooh, yeah.
And I love the idea of sleeping. Don't always do it at the same time every day.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I'm a morning person.
Yeah.
So I like, you know, these little things. So, you know, proper coffee, pour over in the morning.
Nice.
Also has to be good signature coffee.
Okay.
Can be Guatemalan or Colombian.
Okay.
Nothing
Those are the
else.
two though. Okay.
Those are the two. Also best regions in the world for coffee.
You've
Then
converted me. Okay.
for people that is interested, you can find some good, of course, Ethiopian, but
Yeah.
so you know, you get up, you do your pour over,
Yeah.
like the whole thing, the ratio, it
Yeah.
has to be the right ratio. So morning coffee, I'm doing also proper breakfast, which I'm enjoying.
Yeah.
Because, you know, because of the museum, I work until late often, but that means also that I don't have to rush at 7 a.m. out of home. So I'm trying to do very good breakfast, and as a Guatemalan, I have like also the heavy protein breakfast in my DNA. So, you know, beans, eggs, and then porridge, because you know, also, and fruit.
Nice. That's solid.
There you
You
go.
got them all. You got all the ingredients.
I'm telling you. Yeah.
Question: what do you use for a filter for your pour over?
I use paper filter.
Paper filter.
Yeah, and I use a V60.
Okay.
Yeah. I used to have an AeroPress, which you know the
Yeah.
but it just didn't work as well. So
Yeah.
I'm staying with the classics.
I was reading something about the filters. You got to be careful of like whatever the material that they put in the paper filters. Sometimes they can put in like.
I read something.
Yeah.
Like they can try to whiten the
Yeah,
paper.
it's either the whiten or I don't know if they use plastic in it or not, but
yeah,
you got to be careful.
Yeah.
So double check that.
You know, I there are also there are these metallic filters.
Yeah.
I might try it.
I don't know.
But it's thank you for putting that thought in my mind. Now I'm gonna be worried tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah,
totally.
Appreciate it.
How many hours of sleep? What do you try and get?
So the hours should be between 7 and 8.
Nice. Yep.
Yeah, mostly 7, but 8 is the ideal.
Okay.
But the thing is that you need to keep your waking up time the same.
Yeah.
So if I go to bed, let's say at 11:30, then I'm already over. So
yeah,
I will sleep less, but I try to get up at the same time every day. So, you know, and then exercise. Not gym that much. I want to go more. You know, I run a lot, and I love Reformer Pilates. It's the
Pilates.
best.
He's a Pilates guy.
Yeah, I'm a Pilates guy, but you know, the Reformer. One thing is that it's too expensive.
Yeah, I know that's the thing. They like the Pilates industry like mastered the ability to like keep us all like on memberships, and
it's like, I don't know. Maybe it's just cheaper to buy one of those machines.
I don't know.
Or maybe you can just make it yourself in bed. Like you just put like a couple of strings there.
Go to Home Depot and buy some springs.
Yeah. But you know, so Pilates I do 1 or twice a week. But that's kind of the thing.
Okay.
But yeah.
Solid.
Yeah. How about you? Are you keeping up?
Yeah, I'm. You know, it's a huge part of life for me. So I'm like a 4 or 5 day a week gym guy.
Yeah. Probably you have a nice place in the area?
Yeah, just there's a little local gym here I go to, Rodeo.
Yeah.
In Silver Lake, shout out.
And do you chat like you're like one of these guys that comes like, hey,
you know, I think I save my interpersonal energy for the like community space.
Friends.
When I get, and I think too, I hate to say it, I end up being kind of selfish when I get into the gym. I will talk with people, but I'm kind. I'd like to think I'm kind.
Yeah.
But like I kind of get tunnel vision, and I think spending so many years, as you know, I was a personal trainer for many years. So I kind of have this like clear plan that I want to like execute every time.
Yeah.
And then
also you don't want to spend there like 5 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Time is precious. Yeah. So
nice.
I already feel like if I'm going to use that time, I only allow myself like an hour and 10 minutes.
Tend to like kind of like set up.
Yeah, to set up, get it done, warm up, blah blah blah. And so like the as I start chatting with people, I'm like, you're burning into your time, you know, you're losing your time.
Yeah, you know. So, I know.
Yeah. Anyways,
how many hours sleep?
Same. I try for 7 or 8. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like I'm around a lot of artists who are great sleepers. Maybe that's part of.
I think it's a good thing. Yeah. You cannot forget, but at some point you try to go back to it.
It's like artists and athletes like need their sleep. I think like there's a performance or like there's like a recharge.
You burn so much energy, and you know, like I enjoy people and social kind of events, but I'm not. You know, there is people that recharge with social things. Like you just are energized.
Yeah.
I enjoy it, but I'm not energized.
Same.
I'm like I end up very tired.
Yeah.
So I need to recharge.
And I think people look at us like, oh, you're extroverted.
Yeah,
you're
like no, I'm.
It's like
I'm not.
Yes, but like.
Yeah, I'm tired now. What do you mean? Yeah, exactly.
Like so glad that we got to do this podcast today, but like looking forward to when you're gone and like we can just both.
Yeah.
We did it.
No, it's true. It's true. But same with yeah, I guess that's the thing with sleeping as well, right? And having your moments where you are, you know, alone and doing things at home.
Hosing things.
Yeah. Cozy things. Cozy. That should be the topic for the next podcast. And you can invite me. Yeah. Just talk about coziness.
Oh, coziness.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What did you say?
Oh, no, I was saying hosing things. Hosing things with the hose.
No. I heard cozy. Yeah, hosing.
No, yeah, let's talk about cozy.
Let's talk about hosey and cozy.
Hosing your backyard with the hose.
That's a good title for something.
Hosey and cozy. That'd be, you could take that a lot of different ways.
Yeah. Maybe it's not good.
But do you identify with cozy as a concept? Do you look for that in your life?
I think coziness is one of the most important things in life.
Yeah.
You know, your living room is very cozy.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that because you can get easily when you go somewhere, like especially if it's a house, you're like, I mean, some people care about coziness, some people don't.
Yeah.
But it's just important, and coziness is about light.
I feel like I'm so connected to you right now in this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Cozy. It encapsulates like comfort, security, warmth, relaxation. Yeah. It's hard. It's like, because we use that word a lot, cozy, but it's a kind of this big concept.
Yeah. But you need good light. You need some for cozy. You need good light, some fabric. You need to have texture in the space for cozy.
Yeah.
You need art. You know, and then that's it.
Yeah. Who knew that? I think cozy. We are kindred spirits on coziness.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's a good place to end for the day. Stay cozy, Friday Heaters.
There you go.
Pablo Jose Ramirez, thank you for joining us on the Friday Heaters podcast. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah.